Hey guys, I have my client here, Alex, with me. She did such a wonderful job in our time together in the Becoming Whole Again Total Transformation Program. And she's been kind enough here to come and share her experience with you guys, share how she was able to go from where she was to where she is now, share a little bit of her advice or tips and the favorite things that she learned along the journey, so that if you're maybe feeling the way she's feeling and you want to kind of get out of that, maybe you can kind of get some golden nuggets of advice or pieces of like aha moments from her telling her story and her transformation. Because I do these interviews because it's really important, I think, to hear what's possible from other people, especially just like people like me and her and everyday people. If she can do it, if I can do it, we can all do it. This is not impossible work. It's not impossible to go from painful relationships or having trouble setting boundaries or being yourself. It is possible to overcome these things, even if it's something you've done your entire life. And Alex is an attribute to that transformation. So I am super excited for her to share her story. So thanks for being here with me, Alex. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So go ahead and just for the people that will be joining in and watching, if you don't care, think about when we first met, right? Like when we first started talking, if you will, just kind of think about how things were kind of going for you. I know that you had just gotten out of a relationship, just some different things were going, having some realizations. What was the experience like? What was your mind? What were you kind of going through when we first met?
I was feeling pretty lost. I'm not gonna lie. I had, just gotten out of a relationship, very messy breakup. Been together for years and years. So I really, without that person, I felt like there was like a big void in my life and I didn't know what to do. I felt like I didn't have like an identity apart from this person.
Yeah.
So I was just obviously it was fate, something I found you on Instagram and I was like, okay, let me see what I can do here.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. I can definitely personally relate to that. Struggling with some codependency myself, being in long-term relationships, it can be very easy to just do and be for that person, and especially too, I think a lot of times with someone who has a little bit of that codependency tendency, it's easy to be with someone and just kind of absorb who they are as a person. So it's so easy to lose ourselves because it's like, oh, I want to do what they do. Even if it's not really what you're doing, it's just you like this person so much, you love this person, you want to make them happy. And it's just so easy to lose that identity in that. So I can definitely relate to that. And so some of those struggles, give me go ahead and tell me just a little bit of like what kind of going on, right? So we've talked about, you mentioned the losing the identity, and I think that ties in with some of the codependency. So what were some of the things that you like, what were some of your goals, which I know them, right? But like what, go ahead and share with people that might be tuning in, what were some of your biggest goals whenever you found me and we started talking, and you were like, this is what I have to get done, this is what I have to figure out?
So I really wanted to just be okay with being by myself. And I think that I really struggled with that. I felt like I jumped from relationship to relationship and I didn't want to do that this time. I wanted to take a different path. So again, I'm very grateful that I found you and that I was able to go through this journey. So yeah, I really wanted to be okay alone. I wanted to build healthy habits and keep growing and keep moving forward. And I felt like before I was just kind of like stuck and I didn't really have a path. So
yeah. And the other things, that was definitely the biggest main thing, was we really wanted to be okay on our own. And then some of the other things that we were noticing, I think, if it's okay, what I think you mean a little bit by some of those healthy habits anyways, was being able to like really truly prioritize yourself, and kind of not let what other people need, whether it's family or friends, right? Because now we're not in a relationship, but we want to do yoga, we want to go work out, we want to spend time with ourselves. But if somebody else needed us when we first met, there wasn't a lot of time for you. And we realized quickly it wasn't just externally with friendships, but it was in your personal life too, that you would put your own self a little bit last. And that was like our very first initial change that we made. And just from that one little small change of changing your own personal little dynamics within yourself, and it always starts with the relationship with the self, and so that it just kind of slowly morphed into being able to set those boundaries and go out and do those things for ourselves. So yeah, I love that. And so, were there anything, so you said you had kind of gone from one relationship to another. I used to do the same thing. Was there anything up until meeting me that you realized that pattern, or you realized something was kind of going on, or was it this past relationship that was like the big, like, I've got to do something different?
I mean, I kind of had an inkling that that was the pattern after I got out of my last relationship. Now, mind you, this was years and years ago. And I really, at that time, wasn't looking to be in a relationship, but I was kind of pulled into one. And I just kind of went, again, putting myself last. I went with the flow of things and just kind of allowed that to happen without really thinking about if it was the best thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then it ended up being years more. And that was another one of your goals, which I'm gonna just go ahead and sneak peek mention. I think you're still in the relationship with yourself currently, nobody else, is that right? Yeah. So one of the other goals was attracting more respectful relationships. And I think it's been such a true testament to the transformation in you of being able to put yourself first and do all these things. It's like the universe is finally not putting you in these situations where you're just going to fall into something anymore, because you're being more present with yourself, more aware, more all of these just things where you're actually really paying attention and noticing to what you want to do and how it makes you feel and where you want to spend time. And because of that one little shift within yourself, you're not falling into these situations where you could get trapped under that situation again. Right.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I did lose 2 friends, which I was devastated about to start with. I lost 2 friends during the whole breakup. And then looking back, I was devastated. Looking back on it though, those friends weren't good for me.
Yeah.
I realized that now. They had these just tendencies to manipulate and to belittle me. And I just kind of let it happen, because I thought that I needed that friendship, and I thought that it kind of like fulfilled something in me. So now kind of pulling back from that, more focusing on myself, I actually reconnected with a couple people that I haven't talked to, like a high school friend I reconnected with. And we've been, I know, isn't that crazy? 2 high school friends, actually. 3 high school friends. That's so crazy. But
it is.
I started going to yoga. So I go to yoga a couple times a week, which is great. And I've made more friends that way. It's just been great.
Yeah, no. And I love that you mentioned that, because it will. Sometimes when you start a healing journey, it will feel like your world is crumbling a little bit, because you might lose some friends. Relationships might be forced to shift, because guess what? The old you might not have had very proper boundaries. The old you may have put everything first and been easily manipulated by others, whether they truly meant to or not. Sometimes people manipulate, and it's just one of those things they don't even realize it till it's a little too late or whatever, right? So it's not that we're necessarily blaming these people, but it doesn't negate that sometimes whenever we're too nice or too giving or too not, putting ourselves last, like not even thinking about it, it's like just you, whatever you need, people can unintentionally take too much from people like that. Because I've been in those situations. So when we're surrounded by people like that, and all of a sudden we start to shift who we are a little bit, we start to shift like how we want to show up in the world, and those people that can't manipulate us anymore fall off. It's like, oh God, did I do the right thing? Like now it's like our ultimate fear of like not fulfilling other people's happiness. It's like, oh my God. And then we have to face our fear. We almost have to go through that pain in order to get to the goal, right? So it's like we set this goal, like we want better relationships. We want to be kinder to ourselves. We want to love ourselves more. We want to do more for ourselves. But we don't realize there's going to have to be a little bit of crumble in the current life that you had created where that wasn't the case, right? So that stuff has to crumble a little bit and shift. And I think that that's not talked about enough, because it's just one of those things. Like sometimes, like one of my favorite quotes is, the only way through is through. Sometimes the only way through is through. And sometimes the only way to those goals of self-love, to better boundaries, to healthier, more positive, fulfilling relationships is to get through those fears of disappointing your current ones that are not good for you, so that you can evolve and morph. Because I say this a lot, like when you are a caterpillar and you're a young little baby caterpillar that's naive and just doing what it can for its environment, right? And you want to shift into a butterfly and you're going to do different things. That transformation from caterpillar to butterfly is not fun, easy. Like I'm pretty sure the caterpillar like literally has to spend months doing like all this work, and then they literally have to melt into something else. Like literally it's not fun, it's not pretty, it's not easy, but they have to, in order to experience like from this ground slow life to this soaring beautiful awe of wonder that they transform into. And I think it's honorable to mention that transformation, or that part of it, that because that just shows your strength and your bravery. And it shows also too, not just that, but if you can do it, anyone can do it. You're just a regular person just like me, and it's these things that we want, they're scary, and like you said, it was devastating at the time, but now that you've finally got through it, you're experiencing healthier relationships, you're having a really nice time, you're being able to put yourself first, and you're having these friendships that support this version of you, and you realize those other friendships, they weren't meant for you, they weren't good for you. They were meant for the time, but the time is over, and you accept that, and you're almost okay with it. And it's like you are okay with it, and you're happier with where you are now, with what you're experiencing now. So what you're telling me is that you are attracting more respectful relationships. I love that so much. Love that. Awesome. Well, now that we're talking, go ahead.
It was just very interesting. I didn't realize how much of a negative person I could be until I started shifting that view. And how I lost this one friend is I messaged her and I said, I'm so grateful. I said something very positive, like, I'm so grateful for your friendship. Like, thank you so much. And she like ghosted me. Like, she didn't want to talk to me anymore. It's like she wanted to have a friend just to be miserable with her. And since she couldn't have that in me anymore, she didn't want my friendship anymore.
It wasn't in alignment with where she's at. It's a frequency, and it doesn't mean she's a bad person, right? It just means she's in the frequency of pain, and she wants to talk about her suffering. And I mean, I've been there. I get it. Like I have been in a place where I just wanted to talk about the negative things going on. And it is hard to be around something. It's not that she probably doesn't love you anymore. It's just she can't, you're here. Like, I don't want to say you're above her, but like your frequency is just dancing up here, and she just like can't dance with you right now. And it has to shift sometimes like that. And again, I always mention, it doesn't make that person a bad person. It doesn't mean that they don't love you, and it doesn't mean you can't love them, but it just does mean that sometimes there's distance. But I always believe if it's something that's truly meant to be, they'll get there with you one day and it could come back around. You know what I'm saying? Like if they're truly meant to be that friend. And then sometimes there's just people that will they're stepping stones in your life. They'll come and they'll go. They were here to teach you a lesson. They were here to get you through a hard time, or you were there to get them through a hard time. And we just be grateful for those experiences in the meantime. And we just keep growing, right? And just hope that they can grow too. And whatever's meant for them finds them, you know? So like that's just the best way. It's not that you can't be about it, right? Because that's what I tell you guys all the time. Like, feel those emotions. It's not it, but what can we be grateful for within the sadness too? Like, it's like, look for both, you know, admit it, embrace the sadness. It's beautiful to grieve a little bit, because that means you love. You know, grief is just a really extreme form of love, you know. So again, I'm over here like, oh, like, be grateful to grieve because it's love. And I mean, like, you know, I can just do that. It's like I'm not trying to do like the toxic positivity, but it's just the truth. And it's also a choice, you know. Again, if people are heavily offended by me trying to like be grateful for the hard times, they might just not be ready for that experience. You know what I'm saying? But it's a choice. You get to choose what will build you up and what will bring you down. So I'm super proud of you and super excited. So yeah, so now we're attracting more healthy, respectful relationships. We're spending more time with ourselves. How are you feeling now? You know, you mentioned you were feeling lost, a little bit out of control, a little bit, you know, down, not really knowing what to do, feel like as far as your identity and who you were. So now that you've gone through the entire program, how are you feeling now? What are some of the things that you are experiencing now within yourself?
Acceptance, happiness with myself, just happiness, just exploring different hobbies and things to keep me busy. It's been great.
Good. And how about that big one of truly being content and okay on your own? How is that going for you? Like, how does that kind of look like?
It is definitely a work in progress, but I am making progress every day, and yeah, it's fine. It's good. I've been happy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're definitely, you're knowing more of your hobbies. You're figuring out what you like, what you want, and you're definitely attracting those more respectful relationships. And I love that you mentioned that it's a progress, because it is. Here's the thing too. I'm a work in progress. We're always going to be a work in progress. It doesn't matter what level or what layer you are on your healing journey. There's going to be days where you feel really good on your own, especially somebody recovering from codependency too, right? It's like there's going to be days where you don't even realize maybe you're alone and you're just having a good time with yourself. But then there's days where you're lonely and you just have to kind of embrace it. Like, there's never going to be a straight line in life, right? It's all about the waves and the ebbs and the flows. What matters is how you're dealing with it, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're like willing to be like, you know, it's a progress, but I'm happy and I'm okay. I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing. That is something you couldn't have probably said prior to these tools and stuff that you had learned, because it could have ended up in a bad relationship or attracting friendships that would use you in a way where you wouldn't have to think about yourself, right? Like, but now it's like you're so aware. It's like, it doesn't mean things are perfect. It doesn't mean that every day is a freaking wonderful day. I'm in love with myself every single day. It just means I show up. I show up every day in a way that I had not ever before. Right. And I love that. I love that so much, because that, to me, that is the success. That is the goal. That is the success. And sometimes, and I love that we're talking about that, because sometimes people get this idea that it's going to look a certain way. And I've been talking a lot with my clients recently about expectations. And when we set these really high expectations, that's when we set ourselves up to crash pretty hard if it doesn't go the way that we want it to. Right. So that's why I think you can agree with this. I try with my clients to say, let's keep an open mind. Let's go in. Let's do this exercise without let's pretend there's no result to this exercise and just do it to see what happens, right? Like that way, if it's big, if it's profound, you're like really feeling awesome about it. And if it's just one of those like, oh, it's going to take some time to shift, it doesn't really matter. We're not setting ourselves up for it to be the best birthday party we've ever had. You know what I'm saying? And when it's not, because no one shows up or it rains or whatever, we're super depressed and having a bad day, right? Because we set ourselves up for that, right? So I think it's important that, I love that you use these words. It's like, I'm happy. It's a work in progress. And I'm happy. I can feel you're happy because you're just showing up. And there's nothing in your voice, there's nothing in the way that you express it that tells me you don't want to show up anymore for yourself. And that is a huge win to just want to be able to show up no matter whether it's a good day or a bad day. That's true love for yourself, I believe. Because you know what I tell my clients, and I think I've told you too, is if you want to be in a relationship with somebody, whether it's romance or friendship, it comes with the good and the bad. You can't just be with them because you expect them to be perfect all the time. You have to love them. And that's the same within yourself, right? For your kids, you can't just love your kids on the good day. You have to love them on the bad days too, right? And you do, even if you get angry at them. Same for yourself, right? You can't just love your good days. You have to love it on the days you don't feel sexy. You have to love yourself on the days that you're annoyed with yourself, right? You messed up and you're like, man, Heather, you're freaking annoying. And it's like, I still love you though, man. Like you got to figure out that balance between being okay with the good and the bad. And that's what this is all about. So I love that so much. Was there something in our time that we did together that you found like the most helpful? Was it the most helpful thing for you to maybe set those boundaries or to be okay more on your own?
Well, something that really like kind of jump started everything was when we made the routine for myself in the mornings. Because on work days, especially when I woke up before, like I was just like, I was not happy to wake up. I was not a morning person. I would just kind of sit there, not really do anything, just kind of dread going into work. But setting a routine and setting like a priority to myself really helped me. So now I wake up, I do my entire face routine. I then feed the animals. I then do the kitty litter. I do the keep up with the dishes. So now everything is set up for success for the rest of the day. And it just my mood, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can come home and relax and feel good and accomplished. You're already feeling accomplished. You're already feeling like you're doing something for yourself and for the things you care about the most, like your animals and your home and these things. And it's like, I'm taken care of, the babies are taken care of, my house feels good, I get to go to work and come home and feel relaxed and I can do whatever I want to do, right? And I love that. I can definitely, that's one of the main reasons that the first month of the program is all about setting up those conditions, because here's the thing, you wouldn't have been able to focus on the emotional work, you wouldn't have been able to focus on the internal work and open your heart if you had not had that structure in place in the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? That routine and those things might seem small and like why would they really make a big difference? But they do. They make a big difference long term, but they also make a big difference if you are trying to connect deeper with yourself and understand yourself and the way you operate, and you want to change the way that you're experiencing certain things. You have to go within the mind. And to be able to do that, you have to feel comfortable in your external environment so that you can feel safe enough to go internally. That's why that first month of setting all that up is so important before we can go into that big, deep, emotional opening work. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because it's super, super important. And was there anything that happened during our time together or now after the fact that maybe you weren't expecting to happen, or anything that, or just maybe your favorite part, or just anything that you want to share?
I really did want to express gratitude for the thank you, or the forgiveness letters rather. those are huge. Like, you think that you've like thought through everything with like past relationships, with your parents, with yourself, with friends.
Yep.
But when you write it down and read it back to yourself, like, that's powerful stuff. And that's how progress, I think, was made with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I absolutely love that you mentioned that, because I tell my clients this almost every single time. When I teach the forgiveness portion, everyone hates it. Nobody wants to do it. They're like, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. But by the end, they're like, it's my favorite part. It was my favorite lesson. It was the best tool. It helped me transform so much, because it does. It's not just about others. It's about you. And it's about you in terms of your relationship with others too. And it doesn't mean that you're going to let those people back in. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get their karma. It just means you get to clear up some space. You get to see an experience differently, and you get to just and it makes it easier too if the person in the future makes a mistake, right? It's like you already know, like you start to get this mental like thing going on when you do those letters over and over again. It's like, oh, I see a bigger picture here. I'm not going to let this upset me. They're human. I'm human. I've probably done that before. I understand them. So it's like your compassion and understanding just goes through the roof, because you've opened your heart in such a deep way that allows you to now and even when you make a mistake, right? Like if you make a mistake, or if you do something that might have used to annoy you or upset you, right? It's like now it's like you've got this practice within you where you can just forgive yourself and it's okay, right? Because I have to do that all the time, at least 3 or 4 times a week, like especially being a mom, like yelling at my daughter or she gets in trouble. I have to constantly be able to forgive myself. Otherwise I would be experiencing extreme depression and anxiety, because I would just build up this guilt of not being a perfect person, and it's like the forgiveness letter is probably one of the hardest lessons to learn in the program. But once you do it and you give it a few weeks and you allow it to really open yourself up and open that heart, it is the best one, because it's one that I use personally almost 7 million times a week, probably unconsciously, because it's just something that I have unconsciously decided to do for myself and for others. So I'm having to constantly forgive my daughter, forgive myself, forgive my boyfriend, like, because it's just a tool that will never be irrelevant, so it's just, and it makes my personal relationship with myself and my relationship with others easier, because of that ability to be compassionate and understanding in situations as they arise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is just such a powerful tool, and so many people are afraid of it, and I get it. It's uncomfortable. But it's just worth it. It's just so worth it. Like, again, it's just one of those, sometimes the only way through is through, to be able to operate at that level of understanding and compassion. It's uncomfortable, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And for anybody that might be where you were when we first started, right? Having trouble being alone with themselves. Maybe they're jumping from relationship to relationship, or they're in a relationship that maybe they're on and off with. They can't seem to get out because it's hard for them to be alone. Or just in general, is there any tips just from your experience, or something that helped you personally, because you're unique, and maybe somebody can get some help from something that helped you with the process of sticking it out with yourself?
I think it was important for me to look at my life and see what I was grateful for that didn't have to do with that particular relationship or anything. Family, friends, pets, just my life in general. Just take it one day at a time, because even the tiniest bit of shifting is like the butterfly effect. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I love that. And I have to agree with that tip of just do your very best, especially in the beginning, to hyper focus on everything else.
mm-hmm.
Everything else clear the clutter, clear out that experience. And if you're not ready to throw it away or get rid of it, right, at least put it somewhere you won't be constantly seeing it, right? Like get it out of your focal point so that you're not constantly triggered to remember the situation, and focus on what you do have, right? Like if it's children, pets, a job, a family, or if you, and here's another thing, I get this a lot, I don't have any of that, right? Like I get some people will say that they don't have that stuff. Chances are good you have something you're not looking for, number one. Number two, if you don't have a job, or if you don't have these things, then that means you've got plenty of time to go and figure out that stuff, right? It's like, even if you don't have a car, like you can literally try to find something online, maybe find somebody that like think outside the box. That's the perfect opportunity. Like when you've got a choice, you can allow yourself to be suffocated by, oh, should I go back to him? Or, oh, should I be in this toxic relationship? Or, oh, I need to find a new boyfriend, right? Put that time and energy into, is there a friend that has a job I could ride with? Is there this? Is there that, right? You've got the energy. You've got the time, but we've got to actively practice making that choice. Am I going to focus on this ex-boyfriend or finding a new boyfriend or whatever the case is? Or am I going to focus on how can I expand my life differently, right? We get to choose, and it's just about practicing and recognizing that you do have the choice. You do have the power within you. And it's just one day at a time. And you can break it down even smaller than that. I have some of my clients, I'm just like, just take it by the hour. This hour, I'm freaking out. I'm missing my boyfriend or whatever the case is. What can I do this hour? Who can I call? Can I go on a walk? What can I discover? What could I research? What could I do for the hour just to change the thoughts for just the hour? And every hour, if you might catch yourself thinking about that ex-boyfriend again, but just, okay, I'm doing I'm doing something that's bringing me backwards. What could bring me forward? Whatever that might be, you've just got to start getting a little bit creative with it. And if you're sitting here watching this, you've got my group. Hopefully you guys are in my free group, and you can come and comment and say, I can't stop thinking about my boyfriend. What should I do? And then we'll give you so many different ideas. You know what I'm saying? So somebody, if you just think just for a second, whether you post in a Facebook group or you text your friend, or even if you have no friends, no family, like I said, and you're on social media, you've got Facebook groups, you've got different situations where you could probably just post and get your mind off of it. Somehow you've got options. You've just got to give yourself the ability to say, how can I make that happen? How can I do this? How can I, instead of asking, how can I get him back? How can I move forward? Right? We've got to ask a little bit of different questions. So yes, changing your focus just a little bit at a time, every hour, just changing your focus one day at a time. You're going to move towards the goal that you want to have just by actively changing your focus and doing your best to pull out a journal and be like, oh, well, I've got clothes, I've got shoes, I've got this, I've got that, I've got a phone. I'm super excited. You can find something else to focus on other than that pain, right? It's just a matter of choosing to do so. And I know it's uncomfortable, but that's what's going to get you to the other side, is that uncomfortability, that growth. It comes from that uncomfortability. So yes, thank you so much, Alex. This was amazing. I love this. I hope you guys got some helpful feedback from Alex and her transformation, her story. She did such a wonderful job. And if she can do it, like I said, any of you can. And I think she was really real and open and vulnerable with you guys, and just shared some truth here about the process. And I love that. Like, we're not here selling a fake dream that's not possible. We're sharing the real life truth of what healing actually looks like. And that is what I love about this. Is why I do this. That's why I talk to my clients, because this is a real process. This isn't just like some get rich quick in the healing scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I healed in a month and I did this, and I'm still healing. I'm still healing. We're all still healing, and we're just showing up. We're just choosing it. We're just still focusing on it. And we just have the tools now to help us be more automated in it so we can do it every day. That's all we did. So thank you so much, Alex. I love that. I love that. And I will see you guys next time.